Let's start with Dave Chappelle. This past Thursday at midnight, or I guess Thursday going into Friday, dropped a surprise comedy special on YouTube, recorded last week on the 6th of June in Yellow Springs, Ohio, where he lives or close to where he lives, for a private show, private benefit called Dave Chappelle and Friends, A Talk with Punchlines. I woke up Friday morning. Twitter was a buzz. Saw that Chappelle dropped a short special and saw a lot of clips out there. Obviously titled 846, addressing the George Floyd death, reference to the time that the officer was kneeling on George Floyd's neck until he murdered him. Chappelle, I thought, was excellent in this special. It's not really a joke-filled thing. It's more of a monologue. Chappelle giving his thoughts on the current unrest in the country, specifically the aftermath of the George Floyd killing and the protests. Dave, how did you feel just by like the tone of it, what Chappelle was saying, and just overall this as a special, comedy special, quote unquote?
Yeah, so I mean, there's actually a comment in the YouTube video. It's like, sorry that this is less refined or whatever. I hope you understand, something along those lines. And that did definitely strike me. It's like, this is just a clip from an event. As you said, it was not a planned film special. This was not a routine that he had done a few times before deciding to film it or filming it over multiple shows. So it's definitely different and unusual because we are in a different and unusual time, I guess you could say. And I also thought it was really compelling. And as Dave said, not really particularly funny. I wouldn't call it a comedy special. He does make some jabs at people and ideas as he's wont to do. But really, it's Dave commenting on what's going on in really the only way I guess he can. And I thought he did a pretty good job. And I mean, obviously, you can quibble about things he said and didn't say, or lines of thinking he could have pursued further. But, for a quick 30-minute clip about the current time, definitely one of the, I think, more resonant things I've heard. So I liked it.
Totally agree. It was fascinating, the setup for the special where they're showing the seating arrangements, people that, being, I think, 6 to 10 feet away. They had to sit in these very specific areas, obviously because of COVID. And then Dave just gets on stage, and I think pretty quickly you can see the pain and anger and frustration, and I think just overall like flabbergasted like he has related to the situation. And I think his points specifically about how this isn't new, how this is something that he's been talking about, that other people in the Black community have been talking about, and that really has just kind of gotten this groundswell recently, really resonated, as well as him, I think, commenting on his place in all of this, right? How he feels like he's okay taking a back seat to the younger people who are doing the work on the ground and kind of just being that like voice in the back. I thought that this was one of the best statements I've seen from a celebrity, talking out against, about this topic. And he kind of called out Don Lemon a little bit, who had initially called out him and other Black celebrities for not speaking out. What did you think about that and that portion of the special?
Yeah, so this clip, this from Dave, dropped, I believe it was the same day that we had that like compilation of celebrity clips owning up to white privilege and supremacy and stuff like that. I'll be honest, I didn't actually watch that clip. I just saw everyone shitting on it. And like that kind of like corny bullshit, even if it's well intentioned, I think is what Dave was like, even though he hadn't seen it yet. That's kind of like what he's like, point is, you don't want me to do that. That doesn't serve anyone or help anyone, right? Yeah. But I would say like people calling on, like, in Dave's whole point about this was like the streets are going to act whether I say anything or not. These people know they don't need me to tell them. And he's right. That's true. But I think reason people want him to speak up, especially someone like Donald Lemon, but really anyone, is not to preach to the choir. but really to say this to people that aren't in the streets, that don't get it, you know? And he didn't really acknowledge that at all. So I did find that a little disappointing because it's like, there is still good your platform can do beyond amplifying something you already believe. So I did find that a little off.
Yeah, I definitely don't think Dave is a perfect person, as none of us are, and I think he's certainly still figuring out exactly what his role is in all of this. But I think this is a great first step towards him being a leader and a voice in this. Hopefully, I think pretty much everything I've seen in reaction to this has been positive. So I'm hoping that this will encourage him and other comedians or and other celebrities just in general to use their platform to not necessarily do like the corny, like I'm gonna, I take responsibility thing, but actually advocating for real change. And this actually brings me to something we haven't really talked about, but I feel like a celebrity who has handled this situation so much better than I ever expected is Kanye West, right? Kanye has not spoken out during this time. He's not made any major statements, but what he has done is he's taken action to set up financial things. I'm not sure if it's a scholarship or a fundraiser or something like that or make a donation to George Floyd's daughter. He's donated to a lot of Black advocacy groups, and I think has just really kind of put his money where his mouth gladly isn't right now.
Yes.
So I'd like to see more celebrities doing things like that than these corny scripted videos on Twitter. So good on Dave.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like, I mean, there's some stuff in here that I guess you don't really need given the gravity of what's being discussed. Like he does call Candace Owens and Laura Ingraham a lot of names. And it's like, you don't necessarily have to just call them names. You can just like pick them apart because of what they say and what they do. You know, you don't actually have to just like go to like the first grade insults, but it was nice to hear talk glowingly of LeBron, who has recently done a lot of activism in terms of getting out the vote and stuff like that. So I think my favorite quip too is probably when Dave he goes through a lot of the famous deaths we've had at the hands of police, right? Like Eric Garner and Philando Castile, etc. And I think one of the times where it was really cutting was when he mentioned the NRA, and the only time they were in favor of assault rifle ban was, of course, when the Black Panthers were in public with said weapons. So Dave, once again, he can be really cutting without saying too much.
Oh, and for sure.
There's a lot of good stuff in this.
Yeah, and to your point, a lot of times when Dave would be making a point about Eric Gardner or Philando Castile or about the Black Panthers, it would cut to like a picture of them, a video of the killings of these people, which I think kind of just drove home the point further. And we'll be talking about a movie that does a similar thing later on, but just really, I think the more that Dave Chappelle and other people of this stature are speaking out and bringing light to these issues and hopefully speaking well on these issues and using the evidence we have of these things, the stronger those points are driven home, and hopefully people continue to sustain action as we move forward.